Kia ora te whānau, we're back for part 2 of how to make an inventory in Arcade. Going to try to travel a little bit faster this time, but a reminder of where we're up to. We have our code here so far. We've got some dummy text, we've got some skills in here that are essentially a data class that are just holding this data, encapsulating that for us. We have our game window, which is holding the state. We have our two views that we're swapping between, and just to note that you could be swapping between arbitrarily as many views as you want here and keeping the state between all of them. Do you want a skills menu? Do you want a gear menu? Do you want multiple different panes in your view? This would be how you would do that as well. We have our inventory view. It has currently a single button on it with two textures, and we are able to click that, take us back to the game view, and we're showing and hiding our managers, drawing the things in the drawer, and the game view at the moment is pretty much the exact same thing, but this would be your actual game, and the state, the skill that we select, would be changing your game somehow. I'm leaving that to you to figure out how. That, of course, we're drawing everything, including the manager. We are able to click that button, take us back to the inventory view. We're able to show and hide the manager in this view as well. Of course, we're making an instance of our game window. We're running the whole thing. Fantastic. Let's start populating our inventory with some interesting things. Now, the main thing I'm going to show you here is just how to use some of the Arcade UI widgets and what they can be used for. So, okay, first thing we're going to do is going to make a UI text area. This is just an area that holds text. It automatically scrolls if the text overflows. Cool. We're going to load in a background for it though. So I'm going to say bg text, tex for texture is going to be we're going to load in that texture, and for me, it is called png/panel brown. You should make your own, of course. Great, let's make that text area. So this is our skill title, and I'm just going to reduce the size of my terminal a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. This is going to be a UI text area. Now I've already imported that function up the top, or else I'd need to say arcade.gui.UI text area. And this is going to have an X of 100, a Y of 515. You play around with these numbers, see what ones work for you in your game. Oops, don't forget the trailing comma. You can see the IntelliSense really helping me out here. Now, this is its default text. Its text will swap later, but for the moment, I'm just going to put that in. You might want to initialize it with, oh, in fact, you know what? Let's do it. Rather than having dummy text here, let's actually have the text that we want, which is self.window.skill, selected skill, dot text, dot name. Okay, we need a font size, which is going to be 25, and a text color, which is going to be, I'm just going to put a tuple in here. It's going to be black. Cool. Wonderful. That is our title. Now, well, rather than just adding this straight into into the manager, what we're actually going to do is we're going to add it to a texture pane, which is going to give us that lovely background texture. So we're going to add the UI text area to the texture pane and then add that whole thing onto the screen via the manager. So we're going to say self.manager.add, and in here we're going to add the UI texture pane. The way that it's done here, I'm not sure I'm a fan of it, but it is the way that it's done in the docs, so that I'm going to keep it similar. And we're going to add self.skilltitle.with space around. It's going to give right to be 10. We're going to have our texture, our text as BG text, and our padding, we're going to have 10 pixels every side. Whoops, padding equals just a tuple of 4 tens. See, this thing looks a little bit funny, but we're just saying self.manager.add that object. Okay, how does the text now actually get to the texture pane and into the manager? Well, it went in here. Self.textTitle now actually went in there. You might think, okay, well, as soon as I'm adding it to the manager, do I really need to keep this self.textTitle? Do I actually really need to save that as a property on the view? Yes, you do, because we're going to come in and edit the actual text of this UI widget. Let's run this. Let's see what happens. Ooh, there we go. We're having a bug already. It wouldn't be coding unless we had a bug. Cannot locate resource. png/panelbrown.png. Have I spelt it correctly? png/panelbrown.png. I believe so. Let's look for it. PNG panelbrown.png. That's what it looks like. It's absolutely there. Why not? Okay. Are you complaining about the direction of the slash? I wonder. Let's copy relative path. Oh, BOWN. Sometimes it's the little things that hang you up. Yay, fantastic. I have this with space around. Texture pane up on the window. Looks a little bit weird. Maybe let's try putting some left. Let's try putting some left on it as well. That's looking better. And I can return back here and I can open it up. You might want to actually play around with that to get it centered properly. I'm not going to. We're just going to persist. Cool. What we're going to do is we're going to get this same thing. And we're going to copy it. We're going to paste it. Wait, whoa. Go away, Copilot. No. That's going to start Copilot working. Oh, we only have a few days left, I believe. 1 month left of Copilot, and I'm busy disabling it for videos. Here we go. Okay, so skill description is going to be the same thing, except we're going to change each of these numbers, of course. It's going to be 100. It's going to be 200. Its width is going to be 210 again. Its height is going to be 300. Nice and tall. And its text is going to be lorem ipsum, our lovely Kiwi ipsum that we had earlier. I'm going to leave it as the default font size, which I think is a bit smaller than that, and its text color is going to stay that black. Okay, so we're going to add now our skill description to our UI manager, and we're going to have that space around. I'm not going to worry about making it look pretty at the moment, but I am going to crank up the padding here so it does make a little bit of visual sense. Yay, there we go. Spit the dummy white bait fritter. We now have a description, and we now have a title and a description in here. Fantastic. By the way, that lorem ipsum, I would use the normal description there. I'm just showing you that that text is actually scrollable. I absolutely hate that blue color currently. So right now in the inventory view, on show view, we're going to say arcade.set background color to something a little bit more reasonable, like arcade.color.slate gray, slate blue. Let's try that. And we'll set the color. And we'll set the color back. In our other view. Here we go. Ooh. That's a bit more purple than I expected. Let's go slate gray. Maybe even dark slate gray. Let's check it out. Fantastic. That's a little bit easier on the eyes. Okay. Cool. Let's get our effect window in, so it's the same thing. Copy this. Let's paste it. This is skill effect. Cool, and then we are cool. Sorry. Here we go. Our skill effect area, that is going to be at 380, and here we're going to have 180 here. It's going to have a width of 200, fifth of that, and this is our self.window dot selected skill dot dot effect. What did I call it? Our skill has a effect. That's it. And it has a text color again. We are adding that onto it as well. I should have that showing up now. Perfect. I think I'm going to make that not quite as high. Height should be roughly 50 instead. Much better. We can just add in self.window selected skill cost. I tell you what, let's turn this into an F string. That's interesting. Make sure you put an F at the start of your F strings. Pro tip. There we go. Fantastic. Delete that little space there. And we're away. Okay. Now I've got all of that description stuff put up there. But what I don't actually have yet is any way to click and change the current selected skill. Let's do that now. Okay, we need to loop over those skills, and then we need to actually need to actually add those skills along the bottom as a clickable button with a selected state and a hover state. And so we're going to say for I skill in enumerate skills. Okay, so the reason why I'm using the enumerate here is that I'm going to need that to space my skills out. You'll see why soon. So the texture of the skill itself is, we got to load that up. And that is the file name of the skill. And then the same thing of course, we've done all of the hard work of getting those file names in before we get to this point, which is one of the main reasons why I had that skill object, that skill class that I could make a list of, is to save ourselves some real trouble here. Now, you might be saying, well then why did you just save those as strings? Why didn't you save those as textures that were already loaded in? You go, okay, that's going to be a problem later on. Later on, you want to load in those textures every time you want to use them. You might say, well, that sounds slow. That sounds like a real problem. But actually what happens is arcade.loadTexture caches. It will cache that file and that image, that texture, ready for you. And it won't reload it unless you ask it really nicely not to. And there are times when you will want to not cache your textures. In particular, if you are resizing and if the same texture is used in multiple places. You will want to reload it in each time. It's not that expensive as long as you're not doing it every frame and your files aren't too big. You should resize your pictures, your PNGs, your JPEGs, whatever you're using, to match the icon that you're using. That way you won't be spending forever loading those in. Anyway, don't save the textures themselves, save the file names, reload the textures each time. Arcade.loadTexture caches the pictures. Oh, we can call this texture pressed because the file name is called texture pressed. Bit of consistency here. Fantastic. Right, let's actually make a button now. A button is going to be and arcade dot, oh, we don't even need that because I've loaded in UI texture button, just like we've done with the cross, just like what we've done with the sword. I'm going to say it is 80 plus I times 100. Basically, this means start at X coordinate 80 and every different button shift them 100 pixels along. Y coordinate of 80 and the texture is going to be text. Texture, oh, come back here to IntelliSense. Texture hovered is text hovered. Texture pressed. Is text pressed. Fantastic. We're going to assign a skill to it. So button.skill is going to be the skill so that those two things are really connected. And we need to, again, give it a callback for when the button is actually pressed. Okay. Oops, there. And add it to the manager. Right, it's not going to let us do that yet because this is currently not defined. Let's make that function. Self dot, no, define, skill pressed. And that belongs to self. And don't forget, we get that event object passed to us as well. Great. Okay, so the button is our event dot source. And now we've got the button in this function, the button that has triggered the click event. I'm not gonna, let's just print that button for now and we'll come back. I'll just show you that this is in fact working. So we're in our game view, click that. Hey, look at that, fantastic. Look at all of these skills. They are way too big. I must have forgotten to size them down, like I said you should do yourself. Well, for the moment, let's size them down. Let's make them 80 pixels. So we'll give them a width property and a height property. Right, this is getting way too long for me, so let's change how we've done this. Turn it into this. That's much nicer. By the way, same exact code, same thing, just broken over multiple lines. Looks much better. There we go. And as you can see, when I click them, it's giving me that pressed image. Again, that's just a separate image. That hover has that separate hover as well. And when I click it, it is printing out down the bottom the button itself. Cool. We're almost done. All we need to do now is change the actual things that are presented there. Sorry, I'll show you again. We need to change the title and the description and what else is there, and then we need to pass it back to the game window so that you can use it somehow. Okay, cool. So when we actually press the skill, what do we want to have happen? We want to say self dot skill description wants to be button dot skill dot button dot skill dot description, and I will come back and check that. Button dot skill dot description, and then effect and cost. Whoa, where do we go? Self dot skill effect is going to this should be dot text. My mistake. Self dot skill effect dot text is going to be what we gave it before. But now, of course, it's rather than self dot all of this, it's button dot skill dot effect and button dot skill dot cost. It is skill title equals self button dot skill dot name. Wonderful. Fantastic. I might actually shift the mana out somewhere else, and there's this big space here where you can have a texture displayed that is these, but I will leave you to build those sorts of things. I think we've spent enough time on this. It's enough just to say that these elements are getting updated. Ooh, what is one which is not getting updated at the moment? Is that skill title? What did we call that? Is that what that is called? Self.skilltitle.text. Try that again. That's better. I think that's particularly ugly there, but that's okay. Right, all we need to do now is pass that state of what skill is selected into the game window. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a texture up in the corner, which is going to display the current selected skill. So hold a moment while I remember how I did this last time. In our game view, we're going to say self.skill icon is going to be arcade.load texture. And that's self.window. Again, we're referring back to the window, and the window holds the state. And now on draw, we need to draw that icon actually up there. And the way to do that is just to say arcade.draw a scaled texture rectangle at, again, these numbers are just ones that I have found out. Okay, texture it needs to equal self.skill icon. And its scale is going to be 0.3. Whoops. You need to make sure you close it in between runs. Oh, we're not there. Why are we not there? Is it possibly because... No, the selected skill is selected there. That selected skill has a file name, which has been made. Let's just remove the scale for a second, see if that changes it. Oh, that's why. This should be at 500. Put the scale back. I believe I was drawing it off. I shouldn't have been. That's better. I was drawing it off the side of the window somewhere over here. But now it's there. But if I change the selected skill, it doesn't transfer back yet. So what I need to do is when that skill is pressed, I need to say self.window.selected skill equals skill, or button.skill. Wonderful. Now, one last thing I need to do, because, okay, window.selected skill is actually being changed now. That state is being passed up to the window. But when I reopen that view, when I reopen my game view, it's not actually reloading that texture. So it's not reloading this icon. So I need to just take that and on show view, reload that skill there. Hey presto, there it is. I now have an inventory system that I can open and close, some UI buttons that I can click, and I can close that window and have that state transfer between windows now. How fantastic is this? So what could you do with this? So you could actually have this state now change something in the game, the skill you're currently using. You could also maybe have a shortcut into changing the skills in the game window, like maybe if you push 1, 2, 3, or 4, you would have that skill change here. Of course, you would have to reinitialize everything in here. Maybe you would want to capture what it means to reinitialize each of these fields into its own function so that you don't have to load it in multiple places. You might consider doing the same thing here. And maybe you collect something that goes into your inventory that and you can transfer, so objects you create in the game can now go into your inventory. Maybe you collect coins and you can buy power-ups. You've played games before. The possibilities are endless. I'm going to leave it there. I did have a few extra things I wanted to do, but this video was getting much too long, so I will leave it there. And all other ideas, where else you go from this, from here is up to you. Thanks, guys. I know these ones have been quite long, but hopefully they have been useful. We're running up nearly 220 lines of code. Well done if you've made it this far, and I hope that works for you. Apart from that, ka kite anō.